that much of the rhetoric from the left has escalated to this moment. Just last week, we saw Joe Biden trying to excuse his poor performance at the debate and get that behind him and say, now we need to put Trump in a bullseye.
I'd like to clarify what you just said. Do you believe that President Joe Biden bears any responsibility for what happened today, or does the responsibility for the shooting lie with the shooter?
I do believe that Joe Biden is responsible for the shooting today. Kyle Clark, an innocent supporter of President Trump, someone who loved President Trump and was there exercising their right to support him, lost their life today. Everyone who has called him a fascist, everyone who has called him a threat to democracy, who said that he should be put in a bullseye, as Joe Biden said, they need to have some very deep reflection tonight before another tragedy like this takes place.
As for reflection, this is unquestionably a time of incredibly heated rhetoric. Every prominent voice in American politics might consider the language they use, but Representative Boebert pushed back on the suggestion that she might recalibrate her own language. Have you given any thought to that, about things that you say and how it might contribute to the heated political environment?
Kyle, nothing I have ever said is invited violence. I am not calling for the death of someone. I'm not telling people who follow me to put another political opponent in a bullseye. There is no place for political violence in America. I completely am opposed to that, and I do not condone anyone who would call for any sort of political violence. But I do believe that there is a place to speak truth and to hold those accountable who are causing harm on Americans. And that is not a violent thing. I think Republicans will show up at the ballot box, and that will be our response to today.
That was MAGA Congresswoman Lauren Boebert being interviewed by local Colorado reporter Kyle Clark, who I wish pushed back on that last answer a little bit more. He obviously confronted Lauren, saying, what about your rhetoric? What about the things that you've said in the past? But I wish he cited a few more specific examples of the type of rhetoric that we know Lauren Boebert has espoused, that we know Lauren Boebert has pushed, the flames of fear and anger that she has stoked that causes political violence in the first place. The type of anger that incites the type of insurrection that we saw on January 6th. The type of lies that have to be pushed by Republicans and conspiracy theorists in the MAGA movement that Lauren Boebert is a part of, that creates these environments where political violence happens. Now, we are going to get to a clip of Kyle pushing back on Lauren Boebert a little bit later in this video, but first I want to go through and look at the rhetoric that immediately comes to my mind when I think about Lauren Boebert. And it's stuff like this tweet. On January 6th, 2021, today is our 1776. Now, Lauren Boebert has made a million excuses since that date about what she really meant, that that's not being taken in context, that the revolution I wanted was one in our hearts and minds. But no, we know what Lauren Boebert really wanted. Political violence, intimidation of the lawmakers who wanted to do their duty and certify a free and fair election, certify Joe Biden's victory. She wanted to intimidate them with the threat of political violence. And maybe Lauren didn't know if it would actually be carried out that day, if people wouldn't lose their lives on January 6th, if Capitol police officers weren't going to be beaten on January 6th. Maybe she didn't know that. But she certainly didn't consider it. She didn't think about it. She didn't care. Because what comes first for these MAGA Republicans is themselves and their agenda above all else. It's not about us. It's not about their constituents. It's not about democracy. It's about them. It's always been about them. And talk about things not being for their constituents. They vote against bills that they go and take credit for. So they will evade their responsibility to help and then pretend like they do. We know that to be true. And a perfect example of that is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's done that many, many times. And not only has she taken credit for legislation she's voted against, but almost even worse sometimes, she's voted against legislation that I'm sure she knows is actually good. And in doing so, she doesn't just make a policy statement, but she seeks to villainize whatever progressive agenda we as Democrats are putting forward. And this ad that she put out in 2022 is a perfect example of how on the right, it's not a conversation about policy. It's not this level-headed argument that we're having, an argument in good faith, but no, it's about villainizing and stoking fear and anger. And you just have to check out this ad from Marjorie Taylor Greene, because it'll show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Nancy Pelosi is sneaking the Green New Deal into the $3.5 trillion budget. And in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrat socialist agenda.
A gun blowing up the agenda with an explosion? Are you serious? But again, this is who these people are. This is what the MAGA movement has always been. It is not something that started on January 6th. It's something that started when Donald Trump came down that escalator. He's always spoken like this. He's always pushed this type of rhetoric, encouraged this violence, saying he'll pay off the fines and the legal bills of anyone who attacks protesters at his rallies. This is who Donald Trump is, and it is perfectly encapsulated in this video from the Biden campaign showing Donald Trump's long history of stoking violence. Let's check it out.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees.
26-year-old Rakeem Jones was punched in the face as he was escorted out of Donald Trump's rally last night.
Yes, he deserved it. The next time we see him, we might have to kill him.
Very fine people on both sides.
Get the fuck out of here! Jews will not replace us!
And right Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Multiple capital injuries! Multiple capital injuries!
So, of course, we know who these people are in terms of their desire to see political violence and anger. But there is another important conversation happening today, and that's the conversation on gun violence. The lack of action that's been taken by MAGA to prevent horrible tragedies like what happened yesterday. And I think this is the perfect moment to reflect back on all the GOP has not done to protect Americans from gun violence. And of course, Lauren Boebert is one of those people. So I wanted to show you a tweet from a little while back from our good friend Victor Shi, of Lauren Boebert. It's hard to talk about her sometimes because she's so upsetting. So let's just get into the tweet. I don't even want to describe it. We're just going to read it. So from Victor Shi, Lauren Boebert is an asshole. She was handed a pin honoring the victims of Uvalde's mass shooting, and she threw it in the trash. No acknowledgement, just threw it in the trash. This is how a sitting congresswoman treats gun violence victims, beneath contempt. That's how they behave. That's how they act. That's how they view the victims of gun violence. They don't care. They never have. In fact, Donald Trump went as far as to brag about not doing anything on gun violence at a rally just a little while back. Let's see what he had to say.
During my 4 years, nothing happened, and there was great pressure on me having to do with guns. We did nothing. We didn't yield. And once you yield a little bit, that's just the beginning. That's the avalanche begins.
You did nothing and you're proud? You're proud about doing nothing? Well, let's see what happens when something happens. This is Donald Trump in Iowa reacting to a devastating school shooting that absolutely rocked the community and its members that he was in, and what he had to say about that school shooting.
It's just horrible to see that happening. That's just horrible. So surprising to see it here. But we have to get over it. We have to move forward. We have to move forward.
So does nothing to stop it. Donald does nothing. And then after people lose their lives to gun violence, he tells them to get over it? Really? Is this the type of person that we want leading our country? I know it's not. I know it's not. And you know it's not. And the rest of us who are on the fence right now, anyone who is, needs to make the decision, needs to understand this is not someone who should be leading our country. Now, this has been a very tense couple of days, and so I wanted to end this video with a little bit of fun, flashing back to Kyle Clark confronting Lauren Boebert, because it is always just so great to watch. We started the video with Kyle Clark and Lauren Boebert, and now we're going to finish it with them. So let's take a look.
Ms. Boebert, you've repeatedly taken credit for projects in Colorado that you asked for funding for, but then you voted against the bill in the end. Bridge over the Roaring Fork River in Glenwood Springs, water treatment plant in Gunnison, I-70 interchange in Grand Junction. You're able to vote no and get the praise for voting no because you know that there are enough other Republicans who are willing to vote for those bills so they'll pass. My question for you is this, and just a short answer, it truly is a yes or no question. If you were the deciding vote, would you still have voted no and killed all of those projects in Colorado that you now take credit for?
Yes.
I could just watch that again and again. Sometimes I do. When I need a little joy, when I need a little pick-me-up, I like to watch Lauren Boebert get confronted, get called out, because it's just so great. And if you agree that it's so great and you thought this video was great, please like this video, subscribe. We are a new channel, but we are growing fast because people like you, viewer, are subscribing or are helping this channel grow. And make sure to drop a blue heart, as always, in the comments so I can thank you. If you stuck around to the end, it means the world to me. And until next time, I'll see you soon.